The Yankees are back, the Mets are back, and Empire State of Baseball is back. This is episode 47, Monday, May 22nd of the year 2023. We are airing exclusively on Twitch and powered by StreamYard. Gentlemen, it is great to join you on this fine Monday night. If we want to talk about the tale of 2 weeks, even the tale of 2 months, because the Yankees were in a similar boat just a few weeks ago. I remember when it was a threesome of me, Rich, and Joe. We had Rich's monologue about how bad the Yankees are. And since then, the Yankees are red hot, taking 6 of their last 7 games last week. And the Mets are right behind them after me and Joe ripped them apart last week in Twitch. All the fans weren't having it. A great week, 5 in a row for the New York Metropolitans. It's a tale of 2 weeks.
So that goes to show, Corey, people are listening into the podcast that we don't know about, but they're getting the message. We're getting the message across, and hopefully they're hearing it, but it's working. Good juju now in New York baseball. Yankees and Mets are playing great baseball. We love to see it. Nothing like when the New York teams are at the top right now, the stories. Tom, how you feeling, man?
Feeling good. I gotta say, as someone who has been part of Yankees Twitter since Twitter's has existed, it's a pretty stable, it's just kind of crazy ship. Being part of Mets Twitter now with our Twitter account and everything, what a bunch of lunatics on Mets Twitter. My God, last week you were ready to fire Buck, you were gonna fire Gary Cohen, you were gonna DFA half the team, and we're ready to just basically quit and say, listen, the Mets should just take the summer off and regroup for 2024. And now I think the Mets have already won the 2023 World Series. It is insane how crazy Mets Twitter is.
We are a special breed. And listen, I've highlighted it in some of our tweets. I got to the point where I was just like, guys, like I've learned, even as a Met fan, we follow so many new people. We're trying to engage with the community on a level where we reach every part of it. And man, there are some dark corners of it. I mean, there's the Fire Buck crew. There's the Fire Epler crew. There's the Steve Cohen is a bad owner crew. There's even a crew that says fire Gary Cohen of all people. I mean, you cannot go through Mets Twitter without somebody losing their job.
Yankees Twitter is at least united. We've had a motto for the last 2 years, and that was DFA Aaron Hicks. And so I don't know what Yankees Twitter is going to be anymore. It's now, I guess, moved on to now we're going to try to DFA Josh Donaldson. But we've had a united message. Mets Twitter, just bonkers place.
Yeah, Mets Twitter sometimes it's like walking down the middle of Manhattan and just seeing all the loons on the street, because that's what it is. And some of them are just off the deep end. Some of them are somewhat all right, but that's basically what Mets Twitter is right now. And that's why the very first Mets World Series of our lifetime is going to be incredible. Because right now, think about it. It's been, 37 years since the Mets have won a World Series? You could make an argument that maybe half of the Mets fan base has never seen a World Series, all right? 37 years. That's a long time. A new generation of Met fans, myself and Joe included, never got to see one, never saw 86, unfortunately.
And seeing how Mets Twitter acts, Corey, when that day eventually comes and the Mets win the World Series, half of Mets Twitter doesn't deserve that World Series. It's just pandemonium. These are the same people that will wait online 3 hours to call the fan and bring up some stupid point to Brandon Tierney.
Boy.
So, I mean, that's just bad karma from those Mets fans. But right now, things couldn't be better for Yankees and Mets faithful. Obviously, it would be better if both teams are in first place, but we're scratching and clawing to get there. So it's a weird position for both teams to be in, but it's a position that we are ready to be along for the ride for. Let's get into our lineup prior to getting really into the state of the Yankees and Mets, and that's how we're kicking things off with the state of baseball. Does Major League Baseball need New York baseball to thrive? Big market in baseball right there. And when those two teams are doing well, Major League Baseball does well. We'll get more into it in a little bit. Then we got the Fantasy Hot Corner with Jonathan Hernandez. John's going to be dropping in live because as opposed to
Rich, my birthday was months ago.
Via Instagram, We're going to get John's feedback on fantasy baseball, his tips live here on the program. So looking forward to that.
I'm just going to say this right now. There's one correct answer for the pickup. And if he doesn't have it, I'm screaming at John.
3 up, 3 down is our next bit after. It's our major segment for tonight. We get into our confidence rankings. We did this segment a couple times last year. Funny enough, where Corey's mentioned multiple times where he likes to judge where his team's at, it comes down to Memorial Day weekend. Guess what? Yep. Memorial Day weekend is just a weekend away. So this is a perfect time to get into the confidence rankings, most, least confident, and areas of most improvement for both the Mets and the Yankees. And we finish things off with a game, as always, a player to be named later. Guess who the former Yankee and Met are based on a series of hints. All righty, let's get into it. State of baseball. We're talking about the state of Empire State. Yankees and Mets. Great time to be alive. Mets got a 5-game win streak. They've won, I believe they won 8-4 in their last 12 games. For the Yankees have won 14-5 in their last 19, have a 4-game win streak. It's actually the first time this season that they had a 4-game win streak, which is unreal for them. But all biases aside, I alluded to it in the lineup, is having both teams where they're at grabbing headlines for Major League Baseball. Is this good for the game when both the Mets and the Yankees are grabbing those headlines?
Oh, 100%. 100% this is great for baseball because you look at New York itself, one of the biggest markets in the country. I mean, LA is right up there in terms of market size, one of the biggest markets, and both teams are struggling. If you have half of the fan base of both of those teams tuning out when July and August roll around because you're 10 games under 500, 15 out of the division, and rather enjoy summer activities than stay in and watch a game of baseball. Now, with both teams finally waking up, all right, both teams are over 500. They both slipped under 500 at one point this season, both within reach of the division. Granted, both got a little bit of work to do, but they're not far from the division. They are firmly in it, and this is the best thing for baseball because you're going to have two massive markets where the fans have bought back in. The early swoon with the Yankees, late April, early May. The Mets for most of May up until last week. A lot of fans were frustrated, and if that continued into June, into July, all of a sudden you're in the dog days of summer in August, and those teams are struggling. Not going to be that much TV viewership. Attendance rates are going to drop down. I know Citi Field, when it's 95 degrees, not exactly the place I'd rather be. If I have the option of a pool or watching a sub-500 team in the summer, I might take the pool. So it's a great thing for baseball, no doubt.
Rich, I got a question. Is the sky blue? Obviously, baseball is better when the New York teams are doing well.
Nighttime right now, so it's not blue.
Well, I mean, it's not nighttime. I still see some blue sky out there. Obviously, baseball is better when New York is better. I'm also ready for this week. Let's just rename the show to Empire State of Ohio because Ohio got their asses whipped this weekend. 6-0 New York teams against teams from Ohio.
Yeah.
Just absolutely dominating them. So I'm just ready. Joe has his battle with the dozens and dozens of fans for the Athletics. I'm ready to take on all of Ohio. Ohio stinks. They stink at baseball.
Big time.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that both teams being good is always good for baseball. I think it actually, and you kind of see with the city, when both teams are on a roller coaster, kind of like what we have right now, that's even better because you get the highs and lows, you get the fan base pissed off, and then look at the Mets right now. The fan base was ready to fire everybody, which isn't necessarily good sentiment, but it gets everybody talking about the Mets, even if it is in a negative light. And then we turn around with renewed hope and optimism. And that stadium this week with 2 extra inning walk-offs, a game-tying grand slam by Alonso, that stadium was going absolutely ballistic. So I think it, and we can look to last year. I actually think it's bad when one team is too good. We kind of saw that with the Yankees last year. There was nothing. There was no excitement. There was no real energy.
Maybe not for you. I was pretty happy. I was pretty excited last
August
year.
And early
the
September.
Astros.
Late August, early September. The division is wrapped up. Everybody's kind of going through the motions. And the Mets, meanwhile, are the front page news story because they're fighting the Braves off for a division title that they're bringing down to literally the last day of the season. So I think it's a balancing act. But when both teams are good and in it and have excitement to the end of the year, that's the best. If their teams are running away with their divisions, that actually, I think, causes a little bit of a negative. Everybody's like, they're good. Football season start. We'll focus on that until the playoffs.
I also like for the I want to turn this on the Mets end because, when we turn this podcast back to last Monday, that's my rewind sound. It was bad.
Nice.
It was bad here. Like, vibes were off. Corey was pissed. Joe was hot. Tom was happy. So the vibes were completely off. Then the Mets made a move.
Oh, why is the vibes off if I'm happy? It's kind of messed up.
You were.
Why is that?
The Mets made a move that I think turned the corner and got Mets fans waking up feeling good. Like, all right, maybe the organization's starting to see that maybe a youth movement is more needed.
I agree. Gary Sanchez was that move.
Gary Sanchez is not a youth movement.
Should be applauded. Should be applauded for the Gary Sanchez move. He brought in a winning mentality coming from a winning culture that he got from playing for the Yankees.
I'm a Gary guy. I love Gary.
I will say one thing. Gary Sanchez did more in one day than Nito did all season so far.
That's true.
But Rich is making a great point, though, right now with the youth movement and bringing up Mark Vientos, because that was the guy. That was the guy where you turn the corner. And listen, don't get me wrong. You look at Vientos' numbers right now. It's not like the guy's hitting 500. He's only hitting 180. But it's about the mentality that, all right, these guys are playing well. They've earned the job. The team is struggling. There's a quick, you are igniting the fan base. And what does Vientos do? He hits a huge 2-run shot in his first game to tie the game. I forget the inning. I think it was like the seventh inning at that time. Yeah. Huge tying shot. And that's the game that sparked this 5-game winning streak. If they lose that game, Vientos has to get called up. And let's say they don't hit that home run. And all of a sudden, the Mets get shut out versus the Rays. That's another loss. All right. You're going to lose that series. That would be like 6 straight series the Mets haven't won, or 7 at that point. And what happened? You bring up the kid. He spikes a fire in the team. Boom, 2-run shot, tie game. And that's been the name of the game the last week with the Mets. It's not only that they're winning, but it's in dramatic fashion, too. Every game was a comeback at some point. I think with the exception of the Senga game. No, the Senga was that game. With the exception of one game of this 5-game winning streak, the Mets have been playing from behind at one point of the game. And late in the game, too, 8th inning, 9th inning, 10th inning, they've sparked something with this team. It's showing that you're not going to roll over and die. If people are playing well, they earn a job. They should get the job. And it turned the page completely. It sparked the fan base, sparked the team.
It's that fight we saw out of that Mets team last year in 2021.
Yeah.
That team that came back on the Phillies, that team that came back on the Cardinals. And the Mets are having that kind of momentum right now. And Joe, I'm going to toss this question to you because I think it's every fan's dream to look at their team's lineup and make up 2/3 of that lineup are major league quality players, which start in almost every lineup. And the bottom third are your top prospects. Speak to like the balance of that lineup and how beneficial it is to the team.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing the Mets have had the last 2 years that they hadn't had basically ever in their history is that every person on the roster should be on a major league roster. And that lineup is balanced, especially when you have young top prospects that are coming up and performing like young top prospects should. I mean, Francisco Alvarez has 5 home runs this year. He has 6 home runs and 90-something at-bats in the major leagues. Last year, Tomas Nido and McCann had 6 home runs combined all season. I mean, this is a big, big difference. This is a legitimate major league ready bat. And apparently his defense has been fantastic as well. He's top 3 in frame rate since his call up and things like that. So, when you have that at the bottom of your lineup, when you have a Brett Beatty who's batting 6th and playing, 250 average, I think he's got 5 or 6 home runs now. He's hitting well. You have Canna, Vogelback that kind of cycle in and out there. Even though they're not having the best years, they're still at least a major league caliber player, and that lengthens the lineup significantly. The Mets still need a little bit more power at the bottom. They need a little bit more power from the DH spot, but when these kids are playing like those players can be, that lengthens the lineup a big time. So, you still need a guy like Marte to wake up a little bit. He did have 3 hits in the last game the other day. He had a huge home run there at the end. That was a huge momentum boost for the Mets. So maybe he's starting to wake up a little bit. But when that lineup is firing on all cylinders, that's a dangerous lineup.
Joe, you working on your forkball grip or something? I see you got a baseball in your hand right there.
Yeah, I always got the baseball in my hand.
And a ghost fork ready.
Now, just to kick it over to the other side, because everything is going great for the Mets here. Like I said, 5-0 win streak is great. Now, Tom, if you look at the week of headlines for the Yankees, you would have thought it would have been a bad week for the Yankees. Domingo Germán gets hit with the suspension for 10 games. Aaron Hicks gets DFA'd. Good news. But the Yankees did essentially get rid of their longest tenured offensive player. So you would have thought things in Yankee land might be bad, but you look at the left side of the win column and things are going pretty well.
Yeah, sure are. And against some lesser opponents, but also some better opponents. The past couple weeks with splitting with the Rays and then taking 3 out of 4 from Toronto, have some pretty trash teams of Oakland and Cincinnati in there. But listen, you got to win these games. Germán, I think everyone knows I hate him, and I hope they just fire him off into the now, but it's not going to happen. I do sort of wonder if when he comes back, like how much has he been using if it was too much rosin, like is that really going to be something that's going to affect him? Because he has been good this year overall. But yeah, you figure like a DFA Hicks thing, that's something that would happen in a slump, in a bad time. You're listening to a message, and it really just happened to get Greg Allen back. So that was kind of fun.
Thank you, Greg Allen. Love you, bud.
You got DFA for Greg Allen, who will be DFA for Giancarlo Stanton in like 10 days. So
it was weird timing because when I went on that rant a couple of weeks ago about Aaron Hicks, I thought that would have been the perfect timing to do it, just to wake the team up.
Yeah.
Now the team's doing well, the momentum's back on their side, and
Hicks was actually hitting.
So
Hicks actually had been playing pretty well.
I think I wanted to show you that home run that Aaron Hicks that hit that same night that I went off saved his job. Just saying.
Yep.
Possibly. It's but yeah, Hicks gone. Germán, the Germán, what really stinks with the Germán situation is that you can't replace the roster spot, so the Yankees are playing with one less. Got Baltimore right now this week, right? So that's going to be definitely a tough series with those bad birds down in Baltimore. And we'll see. I mean, they've been really good this year. Would like to win another series and just keep this momentum going.
Yeah, I
think
big
series.
Yeah. I was just going to say that the schedule for both teams, Mets and Yankees, you look at the Yankees side of it. I mean, granted, it's a division rival, so the Orioles will be a little tougher, don't get me wrong, but that's the team right in front of you in second place. You got a 3-game set. I mean, you win that series, or if you sweep that series, you have a chance to jump them really quick. And then the Padres, we could talk about the Mets and Yankees struggles early this season. You want to talk about a team that's struggling. I mean, the Padres, my World Series prediction, Tom had them winning the NL. That's a team that's 500, and they're going to be without their best player in Machado for this series too. So the Yankees have a great chance to make up some ground here this week. Even the Mets too. 2 sub-500 teams in the Cubs and the Rockies. Both teams schedule could be nice for them this week.
Yeah, and we're in a weird. Yeah.
Sorry. No, you go, Rich. You go.
I was going to say, this is actually the schedule, how it worked out. This is the first Monday since we started season 2 that both the Yankees and Mets aren't playing. So
Yankees don't play a game in June on a Monday. Like all June, there's no Yankee games on Mondays. The June schedule also looks rough. So not looking forward to that.
Yeah. So Yankees with the Yankees off day, Orioles, Padres for the week. So you got 2 solid teams ahead. Mets off day today, and then they're at Cubs and the Rockies for 6 straight. So definitely that's going to be a nice series between the Cubs. Want to see a measure of revenge for the Mets. And remember last year when the Cubs were a bad team back in September, Mets lost some important games to the Chicago Cubs. They should have won. Cubs got some hot players that I'm sure we're going to get into momentarily that we're going to talk about there. So Mets have to get a measure of revenge against the Cubs. So looking forward to these series and how they pan out and seeing how these 2 New York teams continue their trajectory. All right, boys. Well, we're going to keep it moving. Let's go Yankees. Let's go Mets. Good stuff here. Mike Pars in our chat. Mikey Pars 92. Allen already out here manufacturing runs too. Speed kills. Yeah, he's already valuable than Aaron Hicks has been in the last 4 years. It's insane. All righty. Before we get into our fantasy hot corner here with John Hernandez, Joe, best way to follow us all on Twitch.
You can download Twitch and subscribe to Empire State of Baseball. The link is in our link tree on Instagram and Twitter. You can get notifications when we go live and join them right from your mobile device or your web browser.
Excellent stuff. And that notification's big. Tells you when our show goes live. That's why you got to download the Twitch app. All righty. So it's Monday, and normally on Monday, or at least every other Monday, we have a bit called the Fantasy Hot Corner, which we review John's video submission of his fantasy picks for the week. But luckily for us, especially Tom, we're going to be joined now by the host of the Fantasy Hot Corner. Ladies and gentlemen, I think he's already looking at his team right now and seeing what pickups he's going to make. Jonathan Hernandez. What's up, John?
Hey guys, what's going on? This is so much different being live than just like sitting in my car and usually having to record a video. It's definitely a lot easier, I think, to do it this way. But
I agree with that. But let's get into it, man. So I know you always kick things off with your player spotlight. So what do we got here for the player spotlight for the Fantasy Hot Corner?
Listen, I've been a bit of a curse this year, I think. It hasn't reflected on my team per se, so let's just curse Rich's team now.
Oh, no.
We're going back to the south side of Chicago, and we're going to – I'm sorry, no. What are they, north side? North side of Chicago.
I think they're north side. South side's a bad area.
Let's talk about Christopher Morel, who was on just an absolute bender. So I heard a stat yesterday. I believe he has 8 home runs in his first 11 games of the year, and that's a record. That has never been done before. He is white hot. He's homered in his last 4 games. He's hitting 370, 8 home runs, 14 RBIs, 15 runs scored. This guy started the season in the minor leagues, and I know that it was one of the more questionable debates that we talked about Beatty being sent down, but Morel absolutely should have been on the major leagues. He came up last year. He tore it up too, and this is no surprise to anybody. He's just under 50% in ESPN leagues, so try to grab him now. I know Rich has him, so now he'll go, 0 for his next 36. So.
Yep.
I hope I'm gonna pat. So, John, when I found out you're gonna be on today, this had to be the highlight for the pickup. I want to pat myself on the back. I picked up Morel last Monday morning, so I've been just living this white hot tear with him.
He's on fire. I got him in one.
He's been incredible. So if the answer was anything but Christopher Morel, I was gonna scream and turn red hot and yell at
listen,
you. So
some of them are layups. So unfortunately, Rich, you're gonna have to deal with the repercussions of what's coming now. So
I'm hoping the reverse curse right now. Actually, one thing that you missed on Morel here, and I think plays to his value, is multiple positions. Having that eligibility at second base, outfield, and I think third base. I think he played a bunch of third base last year. He hasn't had that eligibility to start in ESPN. I don't know about Yahoo. But Morel's versatility is a big part of his picking up. So if you don't have him already, get him.
Have fun trying to.
All right. So, John, I know you have a second part to this, your pickup of the week. That was our fantasy spotlight. But how about our pickup of the week?
Yeah, let's talk about a guy who just got activated, Jared Walsh, out in L.A. He's been out for the beginning of the year. Injuries have been an issue for him. He got hurt last year as well. He only played 118 games last year, but when he plays, the guy hits. He hits a lot of home runs in that lineup. That lineup is absolutely stacked when everybody's actually in the lineup, which is probably their biggest problem between Ohtani and Trout and Rendon when he plays. And who's the other guy? Hunter Renfroe. You got a lot of good hitters in that lineup. Listen, Walsh was an all-star years ago, 2021. He hit 29 home runs, 98 RBIs, hit 277. He's owned in ESPN. He's under like 2% or some crazy number like that. It's worth a shot. I know he has first base eligibility and maybe outfield still. I'm not sure he still has outfield. He used to. But listen, take a chance. You never know. I'm a big fan of cheap power, especially in points leagues. And Walsh is definitely a good source of some cheap power.
Yeah, worth the gamble, I'd say.
I'd say too. And I love the pick. I love the chance here. John to come in and say, hey, I'm going to take this guy who just came off the IL. He's gone 7 for 8 and hit 6 home runs. He's taking a guy who's got 1 hit thus far. But we're going based off what we know best of him. Cheap pop, right?
He came off the injured list, I think, on Saturday. So he's only played 2 games. Talk 2 weeks. Let's see. But in that
like the
lineup,
pickup,
I
though.
mean, he's gonna hit somewhere in the middle of the lineup. It's a nice chance. It's a good chance to take on the team and the player, I think.
And Walsh has been good the last 2 years. I mean, the injury is unfortunate, and I think he's just working his way back. I mean, this is basically like spring training at the moment for him. So he's going to get back. He's going to get acclimated to that lineup again. And with the names in that lineup, they need an offensive production behind them. So he's going to get an opportunity to see some pitches to hit.
Yep.
You know, they're going to work around Ohtani and Trout all day, and even Rendon to a lesser extent just because of the name. So Walsh is going to have an opportunity to see a lot of good pitches to hit in the next few weeks.
There, that is definitely some good pop to have in the middle to bottom third of the lineup. Sure. Now, John, while we have you, because this is a rarity that we have you on, I gotta know, almost like pull back the curtain a little bit here. So Jared Walsh pickup of the week. What goes into some of these pickups here? Was Walsh part of a list, maybe a pool of players that you decided to throw one dart at? You picked Walsh's name out of the hat. How does this work? Do you have a bunch of players in the queue?
I know Tom was giving me a lot of crap for picking mostly Mets. Which is understandable, but so what I was initially trying to do was I was trying to keep the spotlight on somebody that is local. So I was doing Mets, Yankees, but I get it. The Mets and Yankees aren't always hot. So I'm trying to make the spotlight just somebody that's
it's
hot
true. You
or
could.
should be looked at.
There's no way you
recognize.
There's no way you could have highlighted Aaron Judge as being hot and Morel as the pickup. So I know it makes sense.
Pretty sure I used Aaron Judge last year. I believe the second time I ever did it. So I've definitely last year I remember specifically I was using Mets and Yankees. I was going that format. But now I'm just trying to pick somebody that's hot, that's on a tear, or somebody, hey, look, it could be somebody that should be recognized. Like today I picked Morel, but I was going to pick Acuna. Acuna is just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. He's hitting 345 or something like that with 11 home runs, 18 stolen bases. Like the guy's just absolutely ripping the cover off the ball. And in the the pickup is that. The pickup, I try to pick somebody under 50% that will most likely be available in most leagues. I'm just going to throw out a couple of other names too that I've had the last couple of weeks my eye on that either I have or somebody in our league has.
I'm getting the fantasy app ready here. Let's go.
Jared Kelenic was a complete flyer this year for a lot of people. I know he's an ex-Met, but 286, 9 home runs, 22 RBIs in Seattle's lineup. And then how about somebody that got kicked out of the Mariners lineup? Jake Fraley got shipped off for Luis Castillo. He's in Cincinnati now. I think he's available in most leagues. He's hitting the ball pretty well for the guy that was cast off. I got Jake Berger, who was going to be considered today. He's got 3 home runs in the last week. He's hitting 280 for a bad White Sox team. Try to find some production on a bad team. I like John Birdie if you're in a categories league. Led the league in stolen bases last year. He hasn't really gotten going this year, but I think somebody to keep an eye on. He qualifies on ESPN at second, third, and short. Stolen bases are cheap. Another little cheap position that you can steal some points in, or in a category league if you need some stolen bases. Nico Horner was one that I considered for the spotlight. He's had a really good year for a post-hype prospect. Nolan Gorman as well. I mean, Gorman's probably in the MVP conversation this year. He's absolutely destroying the baseball. And the Cardinals get
guy on my squad.
So, and then last one that I have here highlighted is Josh Lowe.
Yeah.
Josh Lowe was a post-hype prospect as well. He's hitting 318. He's got 11 home runs, 9 stolen bases. I mean, the Rays are killing the ball. You get 30-20 out of him by the end of the year, probably a little bit more. He's on pace for more than that. But
and he's not related
between
to
30 to 25.
Has the same last name. Just saying.
Yeah. Josh, I had Josh Lowe last year when he got pulled up, and I missed the boat this year, and I live with that.
And I'll tell you what, you mentioned
just some names at the quarter mark.
And you mentioned the Mariners quite a few times there. And one guy that I picked up in my Yahoo League, and I almost did an ESPN if AJ didn't beat me to him. How about Bryce Miller? And at this point, it's too far gone. He's over 80% owned now. But that's another name. I mean, he's come out and he's looked pretty dominant in his first month or so.
It's been a lot of starting pitch fans this year. And baseball in general. Young stars that have gotten called up. Tanner Bybee's one out in Cleveland. The Dodgers are calling up. What's that?
I said injuries are way up this year, so that
was
a big emphasis
you're seeing a lot
on
of
these
young
rookies
starters that are getting called up early. I mean, listen, over the course of 162, I don't know how well they're going to do, but you got to ride it while it's hot. like
Yep.
Bybee.
Yuri Perez just came up.
Yuri Perez got called up. Gavin Stone's getting called up today, I think, to start. The other Miller in the Dodgers organization, Bobby Miller. Take a chance. You never know. Sometimes they stick. I mean, we have the minors in our league, but a lot of leagues don't have a minor league system, so they're usually out there for the grab. So.
And look about we were just talking about before with the Mets Youth movement. I mean, listen, and even guys like Mark Vientos, listen, they're not hitting the cover off the ball right now, 183 average, but they sparked a rally with the team. So trust the Youth movement, take a gamble. Why not? Sometimes it really pays off.
Trust Jonathan Hernandez, more importantly. That light above his head is not the light for the ceiling. It's an idea, because Jonathan always has a great idea when it comes to fantasy baseball. So listen to him, follow him. John, yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say it's really funny that like my teams are doing pretty well, but then I say to pick up a player and then they either just completely fall apart or, I mean, Holdeman's pitched well, but the Pirates are falling apart. So that's
they were only gonna hold on to that for so long.
Yeah. I just wanted to say one more thing too. I know we were talking about it in the chat earlier. I don't know if you guys talked about it. I missed the first 10 minutes. I was getting dinner, but the Lindor trade, since they played the Guardians this weekend. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 times, I still make the trade. I understand
100%.
where people are coming from. I understand the criticism that you might get for it. The contract is what it is, but it doesn't hinder us. If it was the Wilpons and we had that contract and it hindered our flexibility for more payroll, I'd say, all right, now it's a problem.
It doesn't make the argument the Guardians. I can make the argument that the Guardians would make that trade too. Still, I think you still get two solid middle infielders who are all-star caliber players.
Yeah,
and they were never going to pay him either. They're never going to give him that money. I guess the only criticism you could say is the Mets just could have waited and signed him as a free agent.
But then you're testing. You don't know you're going to get him. You're testing.
I know. I'm saying I think that's the only point you could say is like, listen, you could have just waited and saved.
A lot of people said too after the season he had that first year, like, oh, you could have gotten him for cheaper. But there's no guarantee that even happens. Somebody's desperate. You've seen it all the time where teams get desperate and they just throw money at players. You know.
I think if anybody was going to do anything different, Cleveland would have traded him a year earlier because I think what they've gotten in return, listen, they got Hernandez, and Hernandez is a good player. Rosario is basically a replacement level player. And the two prospects they got were off a COVID year where there was no minor league season. They didn't know what they were trading for. And those guys have basically been non-existent in their farm system. So I think they would have liked to gotten one or two more players with higher upside than Wolf and Green are showing right now. But, that would be the big thing. I still think if that trade was probably presented today and Wolf and Green were still, where they projected to be, both teams would make that trade. And the thing with Lindor is, forget the bat for a second. We know he's not a superb offensive player, but the glove is so consistent. And when was the last time the Mets had a consistent glove at shortstop? Was Reyes before he left. And even Reyes wasn't that great of a fielder. The Mets had a history. I mean, we had Ruben Tejada and Wilmer Flores playing shortstop for us. He has brought consistency, professional Gold Glove level play to the infield. And that is something the Mets had not had in over a decade before they got him. So I think they would still make that trade today.
Somebody's listening into the show there. Bobby Miller just picked up in our fantasy league. I don't know if you can see that, but Bobby Miller just got it. I feel
like something else that Lindor gets a lot of hate for too. It's happened 3 years in a row now. He's just a slow start. He's just a slow starter. For whatever reason, the batting average is never there to begin the year, and then he ends up around like 270. And listen, 270 today's game, I can't be mad when you're a shortstop giving me 25. I believe I just saw the number flash on the bottom. He's on pace for 25 and 100 again. Like last year, he hit 27, and he drove in 120 RBIs. Like, I can't say no to that. Listen, you want to say
you'll take it?
I'll take it.
For $350 million, you like him to be a little bit more. But again, it's the whole the sum of the. He's kind of like in the Mookie Betts package category, where the sum of the parts is greater than the individual offensive statistics.
Mookie Betts is unbelievable. Lindor's a great
player. He's an unbelievable player, but he's not
the top 5 player in baseball.
Betts is not a top 5 hitter in baseball.
Except for a player in baseball.
Offensive player. He is a good offensive player, But again, these are 25 home run kind of guys, 280, 290s average. These are not elite sluggers. These are not 40 home run a year guys. There's a big difference.
I will not stand for Mookie Betts slander.
I don't think it's slander at all. I think it's credit. I get where Joe's coming from. In terms of the sum of the parts means they give you great fielding. They have, a lot of intangibles that don't get accounted for, and
great
they're not like you're not gonna confuse Mookie Betts with Aaron Judge. Like Mookie Betts is awesome, but Judge is like pure slugger, pure hitter. The guy's the best hitter on the planet right now. But Mookie Betts is, I get where Joe's coming from. I get the comp of the sum of the parts equals a very, very good player.
Mookie
the only
Betts
thing I wish
is catching strays out here.
No,
I
I
love Mookie Betts on the Yankees.
I'll put it to you this way.
Great. Anybody would take him on any team. He's phenomenal.
There's certain play. There's inner circle play. There's the A-Rods and the Pujolses and the Cabreras who are your center of the lineup sluggers, and then you have the other side of Hall of Famers like the Jeters of the world and the Cal Ripkins and stuff. They're not sluggers. They're very, very good Hall of Fame offensive players, but they're not prime middle of the lineup sluggers. They are set up offensive players for the sluggers to drive in. They do it better than anybody else, but it doesn't mean that they're necessarily that level of offensive player. Again, it's not a diss. It's just they're a different kind of player.
Listen, I think a good comp like to what you're saying is this. Mike Trout is Hall of Fame, and he's going to be considered one of the greatest right-handed hitters of all time. Nobody looks at Mookie Betts and says one of the greatest right-handed hitters of all time, but at the end of the day, you're going to say, wow, he had a phenomenal, probably Hall of Fame-worthy career that is going to go down as a very, very, very good player,
Yep.
I get where Joe's coming from.
We're lucky to live in a generation that we get to see these guys do what they do best, and they're top 3 players at their position at the very least, and possibly top 10 players in all of baseball. So, but John, we do have to move on to our 3 up, 3 down. So it was an absolute pleasure having you on. Anytime you want to come on to do the live version of the Hot Corner, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you, guys. I'll talk
to you. Pleasure having you this evening.
Appreciate it, sir. All right. Make sure to give him a follow, by the way. He's on Instagram and at Twitter. He's got a Corey Fab situation. On Twitter, he's at jhertz2z32s. And then on Instagram, he's jhertz1z32. So
I like it, John.
Appreciate the confusion there. All righty. And speaking of social medias, Twitter. Give us a follow on Twitter at ESB Podcast, at GGory for Corey Fabs, at JR Pugs for Joe, at 2Spill for Tom, as Joe likes to say, and your boy at Rich J. Rivera. All right. That was a lot. Let's get the 3 up, 3 down. It is time for confidence rankings, and we did this last year. We're going to get into it for the first time this season, as we are now nearing Memorial Day weekend, and we want to see where our teams are at. So starting with Corey Fabs, which position on the New York Mets do you have the most confidence in?
I'll tell you what, right now there is one position that is far above all my eyes with the New York Metropolitans, and that is the first base position. Pete Alonso, MLB home run leader at this stage of the season. I think him and Judge are going to battle it out for the home run leader once the season's all said and done. Right now, he is the heart of that team. A huge grand slam the other night to give the Mets a tie game, eventually to win it. Pete Alonso, first base. That's my top confidence of all the positions right now.
Just gotta hope he doesn't hump down that rail. My God, what is he doing?
I'm all for it. Whatever works. Whatever works. I'll let him hump me if they win a World Series.
Heard it here first, gentlemen. Heard it here first.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the trio of Pete, Nimmo, and McNeil. Those are the Mets rocks. Those are the guys I have most confidence in. And they're to me, they are the Mets core along with Lindor. I think that the 4, I'm not worried about those guys. I don't worry about those guys. They're going to be fine. They're going to have their ups and downs, but at the end of the day, they're going to be fine. It's the rest of the team that I'm worried about. But those are my most confident guys, where no matter what, I'm not worried about them, even if they slump a little bit.
All right. On the other side of the town, Tom, most confidence in the Yankees, which position?
So I'm going to take 2 sides of a coin for the outfield. One, you can't talk about, confidence and not talk about Aaron Judge, especially from the offensive side. He has come back from the injury and basically single-handedly took down Toronto and then continued on his tear in the Cincinnati. He's been incredible. Last year definitely not a fluke. The injury, thankfully, is behind him, and he's going to continue to roll. And then defensively, listen, a ball is hit in the outfield, a ball is hit to center field, it's going to get caught because Harrison Bader is going to catch it. He is from dealing with some of the, even having Judge out there, which great. He did a good job in center field, but he doesn't have the speed that Bader has and the diving ability that Bader has. It's fun watching him play defense. So a ton of confidence in any balls at the center field.
Now, I got a player for my most confidence in the Yankees, a bit of both. Definitely provides the offensive, outside of Judge, probably having the best offensive season for the Yankees this year. And then defensively has always been consistently great at first base, Anthony Rizzo. So Anthony Rizzo / the first base position is the position of most confidence for the Yankees. You know you're getting out of Rizzo. He did this last year in 2022 where he was off to such a hot start to begin his campaign. He's doing it just now. It's going to take a bit. The league's obviously going to catch to him. He is not a spring chicken anymore. But, you love what you're seeing out of Rizzo. So I'm riding this first half Anthony Rizzo as always. He's my player of most confidence, my position of most confidence, first base. So Corey, from most confidence now to least confidence, which player are you trashing on for the New York Mets?
And I'll tell you what, if we had this segment last week, I would have absolutely tore apart the starting pitching. But then you have Kodai Senga, Max Scherzer, and Justin Verlander do exactly what they're getting paid to do in the past week. 20 innings between the three of them the last week, 2 earned runs. Phenomenal. That's exactly what you want. So I'm going to give the starting pitching a break this week. I'm actually going to go off the field, and I'm going to give the front office as my vote of least confidence. The reason I say that, there's a lot of talk right now in Mets land. Is Francisco Alvarez going to get sent down for Thomas Nido when he comes back? Now, listen, Narvaez deserves to be on the Major League roster. He's going to be on the roster. He's going to play a few games a week, and that's totally fine. He's a quality MLB catcher. Tomas Nido, all right? You want to talk about stats, hitting 118 on the season, has an OPS 266, OPS plus, negative 24. Aaron Hicks was in the 40s. Negative 24. If 100 is major league average, Tomas Nido is playing in the Great Kills Little League in the senior high school division. I mean, what are you doing, Tomas Nido? If the front office does it just for an option, shame on you, Epler. You should have built the roster better and given yourself more flexibility. You're not going to send down the heart of this team right now in Alvarez, and the pitchers like throwing to him. He's been better defensively behind the plate than Tomas Nido. You're going to send him down to give Tomas Nido an extra life? Tomas Nido does not deserve to be on this MLB roster. If he gets sent a roster spot over Alvarez, I want Epler on the next flight out of New York. Epler has done nothing to show that I trust him at the deadline, and he made some decent no-brainer moves. Yeah, you brought in Verlander. You had it. You lost the best pitcher in baseball when healthy, DeGrom. But what else did you do? You bring in Vogel back. He's another DFA candidate soon. He's doing nothing but walking to first base, getting his cardio in because he doesn't go to the gym. And then what else are you doing? I have no.
How did this turn into a rant?
What to say?
We're going wild. Why are you ranting for?
Pot meat kettle, Joseph. Pot meat kettle.
God, why are we ranting? We won 5 in a row. Don't worry about the catcher option.
Confidence.
We crossed that bridge.
No confidence.
Least confidence. Joe, you crossing that bridge too?
No, the least confidence I have is actually the corner outfield spots. Left field more than right field. This is mitigated a little bit by the fact that McNeil can go out there, but our depth is lacking as far as outfielders are concerned. That includes Canna, Pham, and Marte at the moment. Marte can have a chance to get back in my good graces, as this could be a left field only conversation. But this is the biggest concern I have with the Mets right now. Even the bullpen's been pretty good for how much they've gotten worked in the first half of the year so far. But, that offensive production from positions that are corner outfield, that are particularly power positions, is lacking right now. And we have an overabundance of corner infielders with power, but nobody that can play the outfield at the moment. So that's my that's my most concerning right now for the Mets.
On the flip side, the Bronx, Tom, least confidence.
Back end of the rotation, Garrett Cole, although has not been beginning of the year, he was the best pitcher in baseball. He slipped a little bit since then, but still incredible. Nestor has struggled a bit this year.
Nestor's not so nasty.
I was gonna continue, but I guess Joe, you go ahead and talk through my points.
I'm asking what happened with him.
So Nestor has not been great. He's been he had a good start his last time through, but Nestor hasn't. I still feel like he can find it and he'll be okay. Severino looked really good, granted against a Reds team that not gonna be that impressive, but for as long as he's healthy, I feel good about Severino. It's really just the end of that rotation that's still a lot of question marks for me. It's the Clark Schmidt. It's Johnny Brito. When Domingo Germán comes back, is like what was going on with is it just rosin? Was there something else going on that he's gonna now you have to be more careful with? Is that been part of his success this year? So I do have some questions about that. Carlos Rodon, where are you? I know he's improving in health, but just I can't wait for him to get back, and then I'd feel a lot better about the middle to end of this rotation.
Thought we would have seen Ben Rortvedt before Carlos Rodon this year for the Yankees.
Ben Rortvedt exists.
So Joe chose left field. He chose corner outfield, but left field primarily for the Mets, at least confident. So I'm choosing left field for the Yankees as well. Because out of the Yankees, 3 left fielders, Oswaldo Cabrera, Jake Bauers, and Aaron Hicks, rest in peace, 194 combined batting average between the 3 outfielders. And you can look back and say, all right, so the Yankees have gone back and re-signed Benintendi outside of getting Rodon. Well, Benintendi's hitting 280. He still hasn't hit a home run yet. Jurickson Profar has hit 5 home runs, a 248 batting average. That was the other left field of interest for Yankee fans. Either way, both options would have been better than what the Yankees are dishing out in left field. Left field is absolutely abysmal. And you got to hope by the trade deadline, the Yankees get to a point where, all right, now they have their rotations back and healthy outside of crap Montas, but then they can go sign a left field. They can go trade for a left fielder rather.
Kind of disagree with that though, Rich, because you have to get Profar. I don't know actually what Profar signed for, so I could be wrong on that. But Benintendi would have had to be locked into. Free agents that were. I know, but you would have had to locked up to multiple years to these guys. Those aren't guys you want. I don't know if Profar might have been a 1-year deal, but Benintendi, yeah, it'd been better. But I wouldn't want Benintendi for 2-3 years from now. I'd rather move on from him. So.
I'd still, and listen, going back, I'd still rather have the starting pitcher because I still think it's easier to trade for a corner outfielder that can help you get to a good position in the playoffs. But, Yankees entered with a guy who should not be qualified as a major league left fielder, and that's what they had. They did the right move last week by letting Aaron Hicks go. So rejoice, Yankee fans. We at least got that right. They still have an issue in left field, though, so at least confidence for now. And lastly, which position since opening day has had the most improvement for your team? So, Corey, for the Mets end, what do you got?
It's a position that I mentioned in my last rant is the catching position. Francisco Alvarez right now has helped that youth movement, and over the last 2 weeks, he's really looked a lot better than he did the first 4 or 5 weeks. And look at the backup catcher. I mean, in one game start, Gary Sanchez has the same number of RBIs as Tomas Nido, and that is 1.
God damn it.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on Corey. It's catcher and third base. Ironically, the two spots where the Mets called up their 2 top prospects, the former being the number 1 prospect in baseball. So those are the 2 biggest spots improved. Anytime you can replace Tomas Nido and Eduardo Escobar with 2 top prospects, and those prospects come in and produce. They have, I think, a combined 10 home runs already in a month, whereas Escobar and Nido, I think, had a combined 3 total. So it's a big improvement. They're going to continue to develop, and their best baseball is still to come. And that's the biggest improvement for the Mets so far.
Thomas, let's set Joe off.
Yeah, so mine, we talk about biggest improvement / what has kind of surprised you and made you kind of, surprised you the most. And that is how the Yankees bullpen has ended up this year. It was something we were both confident going into the season, but with a Canely being out and just some other things have shuffled around in that bullpen.
They Trevino, Efros.
Yeah, those are the guys you were thinking, like, okay, they can kind of help lead us. And then with them down, it was a bit of a question mark. And let me remind Joe, the Yankees now have the best bullpen again in baseball with the best ERA. They have, if you're talking about blown saves, which Joe is very concerned with, they are really kind of middle of the pack in blown saves, probably actually towards the top of the league and towards the top of the league in save conversion. So I feel really good with how the bullpen has turned out, especially if you can just get rid of Albert Abreu, which hopefully will happen at some point. The Yankees bullpen has been really good. Guys have stepped up. They're going to get some of those other guys back, see how they fit in, especially with that back end of the rotation being a bit of a question mark. A strong bullpen has helped lift this team up.
3 ERAs in the bullpen, non-qualified. Wandy Peralta, 1.93. Ian Hamilton, a 1.23. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, 0 ERA. So there you go. Bullpen's fantastic. Everybody missed the ICAP point. All right.
Rich, I did not at all.
All righty. So most improved, this was a tough one because I didn't want to interfere with Tom's bullpen, but that's a great pick on field. So I'm going to go with somebody off the field and someone that you would not expect me to praise on this show. Somebody I've ranted on many a times in the show as of like 2 weeks ago on this program. Aaron Boone, the manager. That is the most improved position. You think about where the Yankees should have been, how they went into the season banged up, lost 3/5 of their rotation. Within 2 weeks, lost Donaldson, lost Stanton. 3 weeks into it, lost Judge for 10 games. The Yankees should be dead in the water. And yet the Yankees stayed afloat through it all. And now they're in a position where they're third place, yes, in the AL East, and they're 5.5 back of the Rays, the best team in baseball right now. And outside of their own division, obviously, they would be a first or second place team in any other division in baseball. That is a fact. I hate the fact that Aaron Boone's our manager right now, and I've not liked it from the beginning, but I can't discredit him right now because he's kept things afloat. He's made some questionable bullpen decisions, yes, but he's also made some decisions that I sat back. I was like, what is he doing? And yet here's Albert Abreu getting the team out of a jam, or Jimmy Cordero getting the team out of a jam.
Ryan Weber.
Aaron Boone, most improved. I have to say it. Boone's the most improved from opening day to now. That might change when we do this again, and it probably will, but I got to go with the Yankees manager.
You'll be calling for his head in August again.
Oh, yeah. I'll probably be calling for his head in a month from now. But for right now,
not I.
Aaron Boone. And I don't think you can argue it.
Nope, I think it's a fair pick. You can argue it.
So that is it. Fast. I love that one. All right. 3 up, 3 down. We did this segment last year, so you can go check that out on YouTube. But other ways to follow us on YouTube and look for those archives, Tom?
Yeah, so if you are watching us live, as Rich mentioned, you can watch some older episodes, some clips, some shorts on our YouTube channel. So make sure to follow us and find us on Empire State of Baseball on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever else, other buttons you can hit. There's a lot of buttons on YouTube. Don't dislike, I guess, or it doesn't matter because dislike button doesn't show up anymore. Just hit all the buttons.
Yeah. So now up to my favorite part of every week's show, outside of hitting end broadcast and not having to hear Joe for another week. We're going to go to games. ESP games, my favorite. So tonight it's going to be a player to be named later. And before we get into our game, let's check out a look at our standings. And there we are at first place with 5, Tom with 3, Corey and Joe tied for 2. And our poor guest spot, little Homer Bush, got the 1 for 5th place. So good for Homer. And we have Twitch standings as well, because last week on the show, we did have a correct guess before one of us got it. And Riff0302 is top of the leaderboard. He's the only person on the leaderboard right now for our Twitch standings. So obviously, we're going to be looking into Twitch and seeing if you guys can get these answers right. So let's get into it. For a player to be named later, Corey, who is our New York Met?
All right, our first hint, you could see all 3. So I guess we'll just spit them out all here at once. But
let's go.
Player to be named later for the New York Metropolitans. This player did have 2 separate stints, brief stints, but 2 separate stints with the New York Mets among his 12 MLB seasons. This is a player, if you look at his stats, almost an even split in terms of years between National and American League, but his time as a starter was pretty much all in the American League. Much favored his at-bats in the American League, and his only All-Star appearance was also for the American League back in the year 2006. This is an outfielder. Played all positions, but was notoriously a center fielder. Only played briefly in the corner spots early and late in his career, but primarily a center fielder.
Mike Cameron wasn't a Met, was he?
He was a Met. Good guess, but it's not Mike Cameron.
It's not Jay Payton, is it?
It is also not Jay Payton, but another good guess in the sense that he did convert, I believe, to mainly a right fielder after playing center most of his career.
No, he had a phenomenal play that year, but Andy Chavez?
I love Andy Chavez, one of my favorite players, but he was not an all-star with the New York Metropolitans in 2006.
Nobody look in the chat, obviously. There's no guesses. I don't see any guesses yet.
Let's see. And so his only year being an all-star was 2006. Oh, but in the AL?
In the American.
But not as, okay, so.
Yeah, that's what's throwing me off.
And it is a legitimate starting player. I mean, outside of his first year or two and his last year, he was a regular starting center fielder in baseball, primarily in the American League.
I mean, this is a player that has some gravitas. So you got 12 seasons in the MLB, you're an all-star. You're definitely a player.
Coco Crisp?
Not too old, but not the worst guess because I know he's bounced around a bit too. Center fielder, he bounced around a little bit. Not a bad guess.
Milton Bradley?
Not Milton Bradley. Milton Bradley, remember, always a big hothead guy. Always used to love to see the Milton Bradley highlights though on ESPN.
Joe.
Not Preston Wilson.
It is not Preston.
I'm going to keep naming Cleveland center fielders. Is it Grady Sizemore?
Not Grady. I'll give one last hint. I'll give an ad hoc
hint.
He's
giving an extra hint.
Ad hoc. Hello.
All-star year. His best year is Texas Rangers.
Gary Matthews Jr.
Gary Matthews Jr. it is.
Ooh.
Let's go. Shouldn't have gave the last guess, Corey. But
I forget he was in that.
I forgot he existed. So.
Ended his career. See, I was feeling giving. I could have got myself a point.
You could have got yourself a point. I don't know why you did that. I'm not giving a fourth hint.
The stats.
Yeah.
I will not give a fourth hint, so I appreciate the point, Corey.
I can't even remember him on the Mets.
He ended
his last season. Phenomenal plays in like baseball history when he was a center fielder for the Rangers. That robbed home run that he made where he just turns his body around. Unbelievable. All right, for the Yankees, our player to be named later. This player wore the New York Yankees pinstripe for one season. This player won a World Series, a Hank Aaron Award, and was selected to the All-Star game 3 times. And our player here retired in 2014 and would become a color commentator for the New England Sports Network.
So big Boston guy. Hank Aaron.
Somebody's reading.
Kevin Youkilis?
It is Kevin Youkilis. Wow. Boring in record timing. The Uke.
Sorry,
it was. I do not. I remember seeing him in spring training. I was trying to remember what the Hank Aaron Award was for, and then Joe got it. So.
Best hitter, right, of the year?
Yes, best hitter, and I think he did that in 2006.
I was trying to think if that was like a playoff award for something, and then. But congrats to Joe on that. Well earned.
I didn't even know he won a Hank Aaron Award before I actually did the research. But yes, most of these accomplishments were all with the Red Sox. 3-time All-Star 08, 09, and 2011. World Series champion 2007. Gold Glove in 2007. Hank Aaron Award in 2008. So you put up some numbers.
Moneyball.
See, it would have been more difficult. That third hint when you said New England sports is like, okay, now we got to go. It's got to be a Red Sox and a Yankee. A guy who was a Red Sox and a Yankee. And if it was only 1 year, that eliminates Damon and a couple others. So,
well, Joe, I could take the point away from you if you think it was too easy. We can do that again.
I'll take the point. So.
All righty. So congratulations to Joe and to me once again. So Joe, you move up the standings. I continue to reign havoc as the first place man for the ESP games of the year. But it is 8:58.
It is. I think it's important to note that Rich does get all the questions early. He makes the graphics, so he does get hours and hours to look into.
I should get every question right. I should get every single question right, and I should make yours as hard as possible.
Yeah, he doesn't want to make it too obvious. So
I'll make you guess Colin Curtis next week.
Well, I was very giving. I did give the point, but we do have to make an announcement this week because I gave the point, but next Monday is a holiday for the soldiers who gave their life, Memorial Day
Look at
weekend.
That transition, my goodness.
Oh, what about that? I love a good transition. But But yeah, next
Love
Monday, the 29th is Memorial Day. So thank you again to all our veterans,
yeah.
particularly this one, the ones who sacrificed their lives for us. We would not be here without all of your duties and services. So thank you again. So we're going to be off next week. We're taking a break. We decided we're not going to do a Tuesday show. We're going to take the week off, but we will be back live Monday, June 5th at our normal time slot of 8 p.m. Eastern. Joe, we'll start with you. Who would you like to thank on this fine Monday evening?
Thanks for the Mets for coming back from the dead, basically, and giving us something to root for the next few weeks at least. I'm thankful for that. Listen, thank you to all our YouTube subscribers. Keep an eye out, even though we'll be off next week from the main show. We still got our Mets Minutes and River Ave Rewinds that we'll be posting almost daily. So you can check those out. Rich got over 1,000 views on his. Corey's from yesterday, game 1 of the doubleheader, is up, getting close to that mark that Rich said about a week ago. So we'll see. Getting a lot of views, loving it. Thank you for the support.
They love the live ballpark scenes.
They don't like me in the sunglasses and the Hawaiian shirt yesterday, though. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk about what was going on.
The hamburger hanging out.
I think we got the gold chain, the tee, the shirt, the sunglasses. Just like what was
Rich.
Your hair looked like it was graying. I mean, it was.
It is graying. I have to work with you.
I'll be honest. Drake Hills looked like he was in on a beach in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful yesterday. I had to break out the
Rivera. My God.
Yes, sir. I had to break it out, man. But Thomas, anybody you want to thank before we send it to 2 weeks?
No.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. But I do want to thank John Hernandez for jumping in and doing the live fantasy hot corner, getting into the nitty gritty of all the great baseball players that we normally don't talk about. And thank you for not talking about any Oakland Athletics because we're not allowed to talk about them. But also thank you to all our troops out there that sacrificed their lives to give us a platform like this, because without their sacrifice, we wouldn't be able to do stuff like this. And that's what's great about having our freedoms the way we have them.
Yep.
So thank you all. We love you all. Corey, let's send us to 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. That's it. And listen, I just want to echo the statement for the troops there. Also want to give a firm thank you to Starling Marte, because I was having a great day at Citi Field, and it would have been very upsetting if I went home unhappy. But he gave us the lead again in the 8th inning after we blew it. But, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We will see you again in 2 weeks. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter for all your live updates throughout the week. But until then, take care. Very good.